The greatest threat to your wealth isn't poverty, it's control. Do you not know how dangerous that is? Do you not know how dangerous that is? The government's ability to be able to compensate your property. It's not that I don't believe in jobs or 9 to 5 jobs. It's more about the, I guess you could say, the welfare state, the tax system, the fact that the government can attach itself to a hard working taxpayer paycheck and can really just compensate its property. That's what taxes is. It's literally invading your property. I mean, we have so many people who's crying about privacy and social media, like not social media, and these tech giants, invading our privacy. But I don't hear anybody ever complaining about the government's ability to be able to compensate your property, and that's what terrifies me more about this whole situation is, well, not the whole situation, about a person who is willing to go to a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week, your average citizen doing that to pay bills. Throughout the year, they only get a couple of vacations throughout the year, if that, maybe, depending on what their job is, they'll maybe get a week, if they have a really good job. But and then some of these citizens, they're freaking, have a degree, or they're probably or went to school, so they're probably in debt, and they probably have credit card debt, and not only that, so they're working like a slave at their job, depending on if they have a good job or not, and then at the end of the day, they're getting taxed out the ass, and so it's extremely dangerous. I don't like the whole idea of the government being able to compensate your property because it thinks that because it believes in some cause. And so for it to be able to tend to a cause, it's going to have to take away from the citizens, and the people who are more vulnerable to this are people who are not wealthy, or people who are not rich. So people can get the whole idea of tax the rich out of their mind. It's never going to happen. That whole idea, that ideology, that fallacy has been being preached for decades now. It's not going to happen. It never will happen. So the fact of the matter is, like, people need to understand. People quote this, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting the different results. And I'll say the definition of insanity is believing in the same thing and expecting the different results. Is you're not going to get it. It's never going to happen. The wealthy and the rich, they have too many resources and assets to get around of what the government wants to push. Those policies, these laws that the government push down on, it's always going to be the vulnerable, the unfortunate, the ones who doesn't have that much. Always. You're always going to be the ones that's going to reap the consequences of these decision making by people who's making decisions for you. So that's why it's really important for you to take matters into your own hands. And I'm not talking about going to vote or any of that nonsense. No, because even the idea of you just want to go out there and voting, you're still going out there with the idea of trying to have other people make decisions for you. You are still you're still being dependable on this entity, on politicians, on these policymakers to do things. You think that they are going to make decisions with your best decisions at hand. Be a cynic. People are always going to make decisions based on with their best interests at hand. And as soon as you understand that and realize that, acknowledge that, the better. Nobody is going to make a decision with your best decision at hand. Nobody. Unless you're probably married, maybe your wife or your husband. Even then, it's human nature. It's embedded in us for us to be selfish. We all have some narcissism in us. So when you start moving as a cynic, You have to understand that you have to be self-reliant. You have to be self-independent. You have to be self-educated. You have to empower yourself. And so the whole 9 to 5 thing is what I'm talking about at the beginning of this video. What I'm talking about the whole 9 to 5 thing is that you have to be able to. I want people to be able to start like building and start building wealth, building businesses. You don't have, and you don't even have to. It doesn't even have to take that long. You can just spend an hour a day on building your wealth. So whatever you believe in, whatever your ideas are, whatever your interests are, just start from writing and start educating yourself on how to write and how to market what you're writing and push it out there through social media. You know, maybe even create a YouTube channel. Be a creator, be a builder. And then you can still, I'm not telling people to get rid of their 9 to 5, but what I am saying is that don't be so dependable on that. Don't, please. The more self-reliant that you become, the more you start practicing taking matters into your own hands. And this is not even just so much about being an entrepreneur or being a business owner or anything. It's about you just creating more wealth for yourself. You don't, when you, the day that you start just trying to just build from scratch and just creating, and not even you're not even so much creating, because like just be an artist. Just take from the world. Just consume valuable information and create with that, develop with that, build with that, be an artist, and then just what I'm doing right now, and just push that stuff out. The more self-reliant you become, the less stressed out you will be of what others and what our government, what this country are doing and where it's going. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be like, regardless of what's going to happen, I'm always going to be getting it. I'm always going to be building. I am going to be building wealth. And you can just, as what other people, what the wealthy knows, what the rich knows and everything, you will know. And you will use that to your leverage, to your advantage. You have to be able to acknowledge what you don't know, what you don't have, and recognize that gap. And that's where you build. And recognize where you are, and recognize what you don't have, and where you want to be. So what you have and what you don't have, what you want, what you're doing now, and what you want to do, and what you want to do. Acknowledge those things. Acknowledge the gap, and that's when you will build. And that's when you're trying to figure out how you can close that gap between where you are and where you want to be, what you have and what you don't have. And that's the whole process. So just take matters into your own hands. It's not so much that I don't like 9 to 5s. It's not so much that I'm actually even telling people to not to quit their job or to fire their boss, or and just go and build a business, go create a business. No, I mean, do that as you're working. Use your job as your leverage. Learn at your job. Look at your job in a different perspective, in a different light. Be like, this is part of my business. Be a an entrepreneur, self-ownership. Go in there with the idea that I'm not an employee, I am the employer. This is my business. Learn as much as you can at your job. Take what you can from your job and apply it to your life. Apply it to what your business is. See how it is ran. So most of us are much better at some things than at others, and what we are good at can vary enormously from one person to another. Differences in capabilities are inescapable, and they make a big difference in what and how much we can contribute to each other's economic and other well-being. If we all think about this, if we all had the same capabilities and the same limitations, one individual's limitations would be the same as the limitations of the entire human species. We are lucky that we are so different, so that the capabilities of many other people can cover our limitations. One of the problems with so many discussions of income and wealth is that the intelligentsia
are so obsessed with the money that people receive that they give little or no attention to what causes money to be paid to them in the first place. The money itself is not wealth. Otherwise, the government can make us all rich by just printing more of money. From the standpoint of a society as a whole, money is just an artificial device to give incentives to produce real things, goods and services. Those goods and services are the real wealth of nations, as Adam Smith titled his treatise on economics in the 18th century. I want you guys to understand, money itself is not wealth. Otherwise, the government can make us all rich just by printing more of it. Do you guys not know like how much money the government is printing? Why do you think we're in debt? That's from government printing money. You get what I'm saying? So the money is not wealth. It's not the money. So from the standpoint of a society as a whole, money is just an artificial device to give us incentives to produce real things, goods, and services. That's what money is. Medium of exchange. I will repeat that again. Money is just an artificial device to give us incentives to produce real things. What are those real things? Goods and services. Production, building, creating. Think about Johnny Rockefeller for a second. So, if anybody paid attention to Johnny Rockefeller of how he created his wealth, his profits, so how it caused so many millions of people to voluntarily turn their individually modest sums of money over to Rockefeller, adding up to his vast fortune. That's how he became rich. So many people was giving their money to him. Well, not giving this money to him, I guess you could say paying him for what he produced. And what did he produce? Well, what Rockefeller did first to earn their money was find ways to bring down the cost of producing and distributing kerosene to a fraction of what it had been before his innovations. This profoundly changed the lives of millions of working people. Before Rockefeller came along in the 19th century, the ancient saying, "The night cometh when no man can work," still applied. There were not yet electric lights, and burning kerosene for hours every night was not something that ordinary working people could afford. For many millions of people, there was little to do after dark except go to bed. So, too many discussions of large fortunes attribute them to greed, as if wanting a lot of money is enough to cause other people to hand it over to you. It's a childish idea when you stop and think about it, but who stops and thinks these days? The transfer of money was a zero-sum process. What increased the wealth of society was Rockefeller's cheap kerosene, which added hundreds of hours of light to people's lives annually. Edison, Ford, the Wright brothers, and innumerable others also created unprecedented expansions of the lives of ordinary people. The individual fortunes represented a fraction of the wealth created. Even those of us who create goods and services in more mundane ways receive income that may be very important to us, but it is what we create for others with our wildly varying capabilities that is the real wealth of nations. Wealth is not created from the top down. Wealth is created from the bottom up. Real wealth doesn't come from waiting on policies, handouts, or government intervention. It comes from building, creating, and executing, starting from the ground up. The most powerful economies, businesses, and legacies weren't dictated from above. They were forged by individuals who took full responsibility for their output. Your wealth isn't given, it's taken. So go take it. So we, on that topic about jobs, the whole purpose of this video is about wealth, and I talked about jobs because that deals with wealth, whether it's giving the wealth or taking from wealth. But we both can, I think we all can agree that it takes wealth to create jobs. And I also want to explain that you don't have wealth by transferring wealth. You don't create wealth by transferring wealth. You create wealth literally by creating wealth, by being a producer, by finding problems, creating better alternatives towards those problems. That is being a producer. That is being a builder, you know. And most people will say, you know, talk about that they're problem solvers. I don't like using that term, problem solver, because I don't believe in solving. I don't believe that you can 100% solve anything. What you're doing is you're creating better alternatives. You're using the tools that we have. And where are those tools coming from? It's coming from some creative person who created these tools for us to use in our lives, for us to tend to whatever task we have going on, much simple, much easier for us. So the cure for poverty is wealth. So I think that is ignored by a lot of people, because I don't think people really sit down and think about wealth. I think too many people think about poverty. Like, why is there so many poor people in this world? I think we should change that question and ask, why isn't anybody focused on creating wealth? We all were born poor. We all were born dumb, uneducated, and poor. All of us was. When we were babies, we didn't know anything. We didn't have anything. Personally, our human capital, we didn't have anything. If our parents decided to give us up for adoption, we are nothing. Our parents was rich. So I know some people will be like, oh, well, what about the people born with rich parents? Without that, they are nothing. We're talking about human capital, individualism, independence. You know, your whole being. You were born nothing. You were born uneducated and dumb and poor. All of us was. So what can get us from there to here is investing in our human capital. What's investing in our human capital? Skills, us in learning ourselves, learning external skills, external resources, learning how the world works, developing, producing with those skills that we have. So I think that we need to focus more on these things. So real quick, I will say just quick tips that I think that you can use, you know, to be self-educated, for self-employment, self-ownership, and entrepreneurship. How you could pursue these things and practice these things while you are working, balancing a 9-to-5 job. But you know, deep down inside, you want more. You want wealth. You want to create more wealth for yourself, more freedom for yourself. And you know, this 9-to-5 job is not something that you want to do for long term. You probably like your job. You might hate your job. You might like your boss. You might hate your boss. But you know that you are one of those people in this world that you're not comfortable. You're not going to be complacent with your job. And I think a very few things that you can start practicing now while having a 9-to-5 job. And some people may think that having a 9-to-5 job is being an entrepreneur, being self-educated, being self-employed, self-ownership, pursuing entrepreneurship. Some people may think that it's probably nearly impossible to do these things, to practice these things, to instill, to equip yourself with the culture of these things while you are working a 40 hour a week job. And that's just not true. You know, you're working 8 hours a day, and maybe you even work, let's just say you're working 12 hours a day. You still have the opportunity to work on yourself, for self-development, to self-educate yourself, for self-employment, entrepreneurship, ownership. When you get there, learn while you earn. Leverage online courses, apply these skills that you learn by yourself when you're off the clock before you get on the clock. See how you can use your mind. See how you can use these skills that you are equipping yourself with at your job. So seek opportunities within your current role to apply newly acquired skills. So you're reinforcing your learning, and you're also demonstrating initiative. You are actually now applying those skills to real world applications. You're out there in the workforce, and now you're learning these skills where you're at home before and after you go to work. And now you are trying to force your mind to apply the skills that you are at work. And eventually, the more you do that, the longer you do that, the more consistent you are just with doing just that, who knows, you more than likely can get better positions in your job, or you can get better employment opportunities. But we all know that that's not the end goal. But now we probably can get us a job that can give us a little bit more wealth, a little bit more money, a little bit more time. Maybe we can work it remote now, because now we're having these skills that we are learning while we're not on the clock. And then now we have more leverage. Self-employment. Start small. Start small, think big. Initiate a side hustle, like manage time effectively. I think with initiating a side hustle, you can freaking think about what your interests are. Pursue your own interests. Practice pursuing your own interests. Practice, like I said before in these earlier videos, take time with yourself. If you don't know what you really want to do, what you want to create, what you want to start building with, you will know the more you learn, the more you allow your curiosity. And that's something that we all have, but that's not something that we all use. The more curious you are, the more curious you become, the more you stick with yourself, the more you use that curiosity to not only learn external things, read books, take courses, go to take martial art classes or whatever. But the more you just sit with yourself and learn yourself, learn how you respond to things, learn how you react to things, learn how you think, what's on your mind every day, learn what you really like, what you really cannot stop doing every single day. Learn what you would rather do for free. Learn what's always on your mind, what's always on your heart, what's always on your spirit, what problems that you are facing right now that you want to overcome. So sit there with yourself. So I'm telling you guys, I've always been telling you guys, to self-isolation is fine. Self-independence is fine. Self-isolation is fine. And just solitude, that's the word I was looking for, not independence, but solitude is okay. And I know society tries to say that they're not. They tarnish our mental state, but I don't agree with that. I think that if you have issues sitting with yourself in isolation, sitting with yourself in solitude, if you have problems doing that, that is a mental issue right there. Because there shouldn't be a problem with you sitting in isolation, sitting with solitude. That shouldn't be a problem. You are yourself. You are your greatest asset. So when I talk about self-ownership, and not even just self-employment or self-educating, but when I talk about self-ownership, to me is the biggest of them all. Self-ownership is one of the most important things that you can adapt, because you are you, and you own yourself. Your body, yourself, your mind, your soul, your spirit. It's not, and I see a lot of articles, or I see a lot of posts, and people, they'll post, they will say different things. It seems like nobody can really come onto agreements what truly is your greatest asset. Some people will say your time is your greatest asset. I see some people say your mind is your greatest asset. But I never hear anybody say your soul, your spirit, your entire body, your entire existence is your greatest asset. It's all one. It's not just your mind. It's not just your time. It's not just your soul. It's not just your spirit. It's all of it. All of that is your greatest asset, because all of that aligns with one thing: you, yourself. All that makes you. And really, to be honest with you, your time is something that you're not going to get back. And why is time so important? Because you need to use that time to dedicate as much as you can to yourself, to invest in yourself, to invest in your human capital. Your human capital is extremely important. So when I say self-ownership, that is self-ownership. So when you go to your job, if you're flipping hamburgers or stocking a shelf, it's important and it matters. Think it's more than you just flipping a hamburger and stocking a shelf. It is you doing that, and your perception and how you flip that hamburger and stock that shelf, or build that car, or changing somebody's oil, or whatever, or renting out an apartment, whatever. I've had multiple jobs. It doesn't matter. at the end of the day, what's consistent, it may not be the job, because the job may not be there, but how you applied your skills and your attitude and your work ethic to that job is what's going to determine how your future is going to end up, because you're practicing your attitude, you're practicing learning, you're practicing seeing things from a different perspective. You are using your imagination. You can have the perception on, hey, I could probably own a restaurant like this one day. I can probably own a grocery store like this one day. Or I can probably own a Foot Locker like this one day. Or I can create my own Foot Locker. Or I can create my own grocery store, my own restaurant, whatever. It doesn't matter. But use that, whatever you're doing right now. I'm not telling anybody to quit a job. I think that it's our perception and how we use our jobs and our lack of our ability to be able to leverage what we have right now is the problem. And that's what I'm saying. Your lack of self-reliance is the problem. So anything that you have right now, whatever your possessions are, whatever your resources are, whatever, as long as it's not a liability, you can make it an asset and you can use it for leverage. It's just that it's going to depend on your mindset, your mental state, your emotions, your feelings, your attitude towards everything that you have. Do not be ungrateful for what you have. What you have now, it is a reason. It just depends on how you perceive it and how you use it for leverage. So I would say, you can even apply a side hustle, and like I said, managing time effectively. So employ techniques like time chunking, dedicating specific periods to your side business without compromising your main job's responsibilities. And so we can even go like into self-ownership. Be the CEO of your life. Set clear goals, reflect, and adapt. So setting clear goals, define what self-ownership means to you. I kind of already talked about this, but so if it's financial independence, creative freedom, or personal fulfillment, chart this course out accordingly. Be specific. And like I said, and if you don't know, that's why you need to sit with yourself. Like every morning, I talk about the 3 to 5 a.m. writer. Get up every morning. The first thing you do, just write. Write about how you feel. Write about what's on your mind. Write about how you slept. Write about your dream. And another thing that I've actually came up with that I have adapted into my 3 to 5 a.m. writer, into my daily morning routines, I also adapted drawing. And I think drawing can be an extremely powerful thing that we practice, that we all can take a part of, because beyond the writing, I think drawing may be more powerful than writing. And I think that a lot of people overlooks drawing because a lot of people don't know how to draw. But it doesn't matter if you know how to draw or not. Some of us, we always tell people to write, and some people don't know how to write. So it's okay. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to do these things. What matters is you doing it. I think that we can tackle both of these. When we first get up in the morning, we can write about how we feel, why we feeling the way we feeling, what our emotions are, how we slept, etc., etc., etc. And then draw it. Try to be in the process of you drawing. It's making it even more tangible than just the words that you are applying on page. I think that the drawing, it really challenges another part of our minds, and it makes us more creative. And it's going to give us more clarity. It's going to give us a different perception. It's going to have us think of things that we never thought of before. Us drawing is just distributing whatever is on our mind onto paper. So just draw. I don't care. Just scribble. Just try to make sense of what your mind is. It's not what's in your mind right now. If it's just sitting in your mind, it's just going to do nothing but just depress you even more and just be on your mind, just sitting there, whether you have an idea or rather it's depressive thought or whatever. The best thing that you can do is to just do as much as you can to get it from your mind to paper, to have it become tangible. And then now you own it. Now you can work with this. Now you can probably build with this. You can develop more projects with this. So I think it's really important. So additional to you getting up every morning and you writing, I think also you drawing can also be a powerful thing. For me personally, I will write. I will draw, and then I will practice arithmetic, and then I will code. I'm not telling you all to do that, but I think that it is extremely important if you want to become an entrepreneur, if you want to establish wealth for yourself. I think that it's an extremely important for you to master those things, and so you can be able to build a very profitable company for yourself, because those are very fundamental topics in subject fields that you need to, that skills also that you need to learn. But that's for another time. We're just talking about how we are going to create more wealth for ourselves, how we're going to create more freedom for ourselves, how we are going to leverage our resources for us to have more wealth. And that the resources that you have, the jobs that you have, is not hindering you. It's your mindset that's hindering you. It's your perception, your attitude towards these things, your ungrateful nature towards these things is what's hindering you. Entrepreneurship, innovate within and beyond. Entrepreneurship, propose innovative projects or improvements within your current job. This not only showcases your entrepreneurial mindset, but also adds value to your organization. So again, this is something that we can practice. Entrepreneurship is within ourselves, within our job. We can try to present certain things to our employers. Now, when we do it, our employers may reject us when we present these certain projects to them, but at the same time, we are practicing pitching, we're practicing selling, we're practicing using our minds to how we can make this job better. So I think that's really important, because I know how and I'm living proof behind all of this. I don't work for anybody. I work for myself and I drive for Uber. But the thing about it is that I have a lot of ideas and I have a lot of businesses that I am currently building and developing from scratch, from the ground up. And out of all the jobs, I don't want to say all the jobs, but out of most of the jobs that I've worked, and I've worked a lot of different jobs. I worked at Target, I worked at Walmart, I leased apartment buildings, I worked in the tech industry for a very long time. I worked in the tech industry for about 5 years. I was in IT, low voltage system, and IT, low voltage system, and that's pretty much it. And I did some coding projects, built some websites for people on the side. But what I'm basically saying is that a lot of these jobs that I had, and when I was working at restaurants, also working at juice bars, what I did, I said to myself, I learned as much as I could from those jobs, and I applied them to how can I build, how can I own this, if I developed a company like this, how will I develop it, how will I create it? I looked at what the ins and outs of that job was, and what I did not like about that job, what I did and did not like, and what I thought that was actually bad practice from the job, what I thought that probably could have been hindering the job, what I thought was, so I said to myself, I didn't really so much bring that to my employer's attention, but what I did was I went home and I wrote about it, and I started just visualizing, imagining myself, if I owned this company, if I owned this restaurant or whatever, this is how I will develop it. And then I put a logo to it, I put a name to it, and I literally just set it all out just like that. And that's what I'm doing now. And so I think that that's good practice to do that if you guys are working a job that you actually really don't like, and or you want to build a business, and you want to start your own company, whatever. I think that the jobs that you are at, you can really learn, and you can use them as inspiration to build for your own business and to apply to your own life. There is a book called The Undercover Economist, and it's by Tim Harford. And he mentioned in that book, China is lifting 1 million people a month out of poverty. Now, I don't know how true that is, how accurate that is, but it does sound pretty accurate to me. I haven't, like I said, I haven't done the research behind that, but that is something, but this sounds reasonable. And I think if so, this is something worth everyone's attention. So again, people make a lot of noise about poverty and advocate all sorts of programs and policies to reduce wealth, but they show incredibly little interest in how poverty has actually been reduced, whether in China or anywhere else in the world. So I think that a lot of people, I think a lot of people, they hate on China, but I always said so many times, so many times for so long that we all can learn from China, and because China, people show little interest in how China is raising millions of people out of poverty every year. People show more interest in China back when it was run by Mao in far left fashion and when millions of Chinese were starving. Those of us who do not entertain that type of vision, we take a closer look at today's China. And I think those of us who counters that vision, with that vision that just pretty much is focused on how China was so poor. I think most of us who really looking deeper into China, we're taking a closer look at today's China on how wealthy and rich those people are climbing out of poverty at a very fast rate. First of all, what does it mean to say that China is lifting 1 million people a month out of poverty? Where would the Chinese government get the money to do that? The only people the Chinese government can tax are mainly the people in China. So a country can't lift itself up by its own bootstraps that way. Nor has there ever been enough foreign aid to lift 1 million people a month out of poverty. So with that being said, the only thing that can cure poverty is wealth. The Chinese acquired wealth the old-fashioned way. They created it. So after the death of Mao, the government controls over the market began to relax. First, tentatively, in selective places and for select industries. Then, as those places in those industries began to prosper dramatically, similar relaxation of government control took place elsewhere with similar results. Even foreigners were allowed to come in and invest in China and sell their goods in China. But this was just not a transfer of wealth. Foreigners did not come in to help the Chinese, but to help themselves. The only way they could benefit and the Chinese benefit at the same time was if more total wealth was created. Trade. They had pretty much the freedom to create, to build, and to trade. That's wealth. That's the true wealth of nations. So I think we need to show more interest in how poverty has actually been reduced from other countries throughout this world, and how in this country, America, what was the tax being done and how poverty was reduced. And I think if more of us take account in that, the better. So in some places such as Zimbabwe, today it attempts a redistribution of wealth, which really has turned out to be a redistribution of poverty. While the creation, what we create for others is the real wealth of nations. You guys, man, I act like I'm all for myself and that because I'm so big on self-reliance and self-independence and individualism. I'm that way because really I actually care about the greater mass at large. This is why I'm so big on self-love, because in essence, the ultimate vision is to really tip the scale of human nature, of humanity. Like, that is what I dedicated my entire life to do. But I can't do that if I don't improve myself, if I don't develop myself. The invisible hand. I mean, we work on ourselves, we develop ourselves, we pursue our own interests, and in essence, unintentionally, whether we like it or not, whether we are racist or not, whether we discriminate or not, but we all discriminate, but we all have racist impulses in us. It doesn't matter whether we want to do this or not. If we are working on ourselves, if we are developing ourselves, if we are building, creating selfishly, and not even wanting to help others, unintentionally, we are going to help others. Why? Because being a valuable person makes your space more valuable at large. And wherever you go, your presence, your skill set, your mind, your energy is going to spread like wildfire. People are going to benefit with you just being in their presence. Think about the people that you admire. Think about the people you love. Think about the people you want to be like, if you do want to be like anybody. But the people that you love, they're your fans, the music that you listen to, the musicians, the artists, the actors, the authors, the YouTubers, me listening to me, you know? Think about that. Those people had to be incredibly selfish individuals for them to get to where they are. It's okay to be selfish. And they may not care about you. It's probably a 99% chance that they actually don't care about you. But you are benefiting from somebody who doesn't care about you because they are selfishly investing in themselves. And if we can have more of a free society for people to pursue their own interests, for them to develop themselves, for them to improve themselves, for them to be builders, without interventions, without interference from others, another entity, our society will keep growing, expanding, and developing. Why? Because it's going to put you in a position for you to have no other choice but to be responsible, but for you to take ownership of your life, for you to take the power to instill into yourself, because nobody else is going to do it but you. And it should be that way. You don't want other hands in your pockets, in your lifestyle, telling you how you should do things. Because think about it. We talked about jobs. Most of you don't like your job. Your job is telling you what you should do. You are it's like you're being programmed to do something and you know you don't like it. That's why you probably are fed up with your lifestyle, but you're probably not going to do anything about it because you're complacent. You learn to be complacent with it. You learn to be content with it. We as human beings, we were not biologically engineered to be created to just follow a system, a program. We weren't made for that. We were made to expand, to adapt. Why? So we can survive. There's more than so many ways to survive. You're not going to survive by just doing the same thing, following the same program, following the same command, following the same plan every single day. That's a command economy. You're not going to survive by doing that. You're not going to be living by doing that. People talk about you only live once. I came up with a phrase called DE. We die every day. That is the dark mode mantra. That is the phrase. Why do we die every day? Because we are consistently redesigning, refining ourselves, reestablishing ourselves. We are reborn every single day. Kill the culture that you have. Don't get so attached to your skin color, your gender, your culture. Don't get so attached to that. Renew yourself every single day. Forget the past, forget your experiences. Only thing that matters about your past and your experiences is for you to learn from it. That's the only value in it. Other than that, it doesn't really matter. It's the same difference with somebody who's like they're doing nothing right now, and then we've all probably met this person who parades and just so cocky and arrogant about what they did, and they're absolutely doing nothing now. I've met so many people. You know how much money I made back in the day? I made millions of dollars 10 years ago. But they're broke as hell right now. I don't give a damn how much you did, how much money you made 10 years ago. What are you doing now? It's like the NFL. What have you done for me lately? The NFL is a prime example. These guys, some of these athletes, I play football, so I'm just speaking from experience. So you can be the best athlete in the whole entire freaking world at such a young age. Best athlete ever. Best football player ever. You get into the NFL, say you snap off 5-10 years, now you got a Hall of Fame career. Look at Patrick Mahomes. You think that the NFL is going to keep Patrick Mahomes or keep these great players if they start sucking? They are going to suck their way out of the NFL. It doesn't matter what you did. It's about what you've done now. What have you done for me lately? So die every day. Kill the culture, kill the past, kill certainly your weakness, but even your strong side. Kill it all, because I want you to keep transforming. I want you to keep going, and I want you to have all glass, no brakes. I want you to put your foot on the gas pedal and just keep going. And don't stop. Generational wealth. Build, create, evolve, develop. That's all I have for y'all right now. I'll be back very, very soon. I love you all. Take care. Die every day. Okay? Take care.